Hello everyone. So today's video would be on joins, SQL joins. So before going further on this topic, we will just quickly review on what would be the contents of this channel. So this channel will basically contain explanation on different Microsoft SQL concepts, interview questions along with their answers explained in detail. Along with that, it will also contain practical assignments with answers explained in detail. So if you want to get regular updates on this, I would request you to please subscribe on this channel. So now let's move to the actual topic, which is SQL joins. Now, first of all, we should be able to understand when should we use joins. Now, firstly, as the word indicates, joins, that means we are going to use multiple tables. Now, what is the necessity of using multiple tables, or what is the necessity of using joins? So the reason is when we want to get data which is not present in one table, at that time we use joins, because you might have the requirement that one column is present in one table, other column of the result set is present in other table. So at that time, to get the result set which has one column in one table, other column in other table, we use joins. Now, to use joins, we need a common column. Based on that, we can join the two tables. So summary over here is why we have to use joins, because data is present in multiple tables. Now with that understanding, let's see first of all what are joins. Now joins are basically used to combine data from multiple tables. It can be two or it can be more tables. How do we combine? Using a common column. Now joins are of like different types. We have inner join, we have left outer join, we have right outer join, we have full outer join, cross join, and self join. Now, before going into each and every one of this, let's see with an example how does inner join works or how does left outer join works. So what we will do, we will go to each and every join, okay, understand with an example, and then see a demo of it. Okay, so now let's start with inner join. Okay, so inner join basically fetches matching values in both the tables. That means suppose you have table 1 and table 2. So inner join will give you only the data which is common in both the tables. As you can see in the diagram, there is a yellow color which is the overlap of two tables. So inner join will give you only the data which is common to both the tables. So let's understand this with an example. So here what we will do is we will now consider two tables. First is TBL employee and second table is TBL sales. Now, as you can observe over here that we have one common column which is employee ID. So for performing a join between two tables, we need a common column. So what we will do, we will join these two tables based on the employee ID. And once you join on the employee ID, what will happen is the records which are having the same employee ID in both the tables will be combined and will be generated in the result set. Now, let's go through what these two tables are. First is TBL employee. It has employee ID, it has employee name. Second table is TBL sales, which gives the sales done by each employee. So for example, in this second table, you can see employee ID, employee sales. The employee ID is column which is same as in the TBL employee. So here you can see sales done by employee ID 1 is 1000, sales done by employee ID 2 is 2000. Now employee ID 1 and employee ID 2 are common in both the tables. Now let's understand how does the join works. When you say I want to join TBL employee with TBL sales, let's understand how does this works or how is the result set generated. So what happens, firstly, this first row of TBL employee is considered. What is the employee ID in this? It's 1. Now this first row of TBL employee will be considered for joining, and this row will be matched with all the rows of second table. That means this row having employee ID 1 and employee name Vinod, this will be used to match with all the rows of TBL sales. Now what is the condition? Employee ID should match employee ID of TBL employee and employee ID of TBL sales should match. So what will happen? It will just check employee ID column and only the record where the employee ID is matching between two tables will be considered. So this first row having employee ID 1, when it starts to match with the second table, it finds only one record where employee ID is 1. When it moves to second record, employee ID is 2 and here employee ID is 1, it will not match. Again, this same record will go to third record of TBL sales and it will check employee ID. So employee ID over here is 1, here it is 3. So it will not be considered. So for this particular record, only we will get one record, which is this one. Why? Because employee ID is 1 in both the tables for this particular record. So for first table, it has 1 Vinod, it will be matching with second table 1000. So these two will be combined. So in the result, where we want to display employee name and employee sales, for Vinod, it will come only 1000 because this set will be matched. Next, what will happen? Second row of first table will be considered. What is the second row? It is 2 Alex. Now this 2 Alex will start to match with all the records of second table. So what will happen? Initially, this employee ID 2 will start to compare with this employee ID. There will be no match. So this will not be considered. And again, this employee ID 2 will be matched with this second row. What will happen? A match would occur. So This Alex and 2000 will be considered in the result set. Why? Because employee ID 2 in TPL employee and employee ID 2 in TPL sales, here the matching is happening, a record is getting matched. So this result set will be considered as LX and 2000. Then what will happen is last row of first table TBL employee, which is 4 John, will be considered. Now this employee ID 4 will start to match with the first record of second table. That means this 4 will be compared with this row's employee ID. What is that? 1. So 4 and 1, no match. Again this 4 John or employee ID 4 will be compared with the second row. That means 4 and 2 will be compared, no match. And then 4 and 3 will be compared, again no match. So the final result set which we will have in inner join will have only 2 rows. Okay, so this is how the inner join works. Now we will see a practical demo in SQL for this. So here what you can see is I have done a select on 2 tables. Now what are that 2 tables? First is TBL employee. It carries employee ID and employee name. Okay, the same one which we saw in Excel. Then we have performed a select on other table which is TBL sales. So this way what has happened is we have got employee ID and employee sales in the second table. For each employee, what is the sales being done? So these are the 2 tables that we are going to use for inner join. Now let's see the inner join query for it. So in this you can see in the from clause I have used TBL employee and TBL sales. Now I have performed a inner join on this. Now to perform the inner join you need to use a column which is common in both the tables. So here I have considered TE, which is my TBL employee dot employee ID. So employee ID of TE is going to join with employee ID of TS, which is TBL sales. So this way I will perform an inner join using this syntax, right? We have to write table 1, this is the alias, inner join, table 2, which is TBL sales, again alias TS, and after that you have to use on clause to specify the joining condition, which is T dot employee ID equal to TS dot employee ID. And finally you get the result set which has employee name, it has employee sales. So this is decided by the select query. I have used T dot employee name, TS dot employee sales. So this way I get the result set which we saw also a demo in Excel. So next join is left outer join. Now as you can see over here, the yellow section is the nothing but the content which is generated by inner join, which we just saw. So in addition to that, left outer join adds the unmatching records from left table. So in the diagram you can see over here the orange section, which is nothing but unmatching records from table 1 are also considered along with the common section. So what is left outer join? It fetches all records from left table and matching values in both the tables. So basically you can see over here it's like addition of records which are given by inner join and the records which are like unmatching records of left table. So in this, it's highlighted by orange color. Okay. So now let's see a demo. Firstly, let's go to a example through which you will understand the concept of left outer join. Now let's consider an example for left outer join. Here you can see that we are using two tables same as ones which we used in inner join. Now the result set which we got in inner join will come over here also. So as you can see, these two records, right, Vinod 1000 and Alex 2000, this will come in the left outer join also. But which extra record that will come in the left outer join, let's understand that. First of all, in left outer join, all records of left table will come, correct? So here you can see one Vinod, basically employee name Vinod is already covered. Two Alex, employee name Alex is already covered. Now which remains from the left table? 4 John, correct? Now what was happening is when we are taking this record, it was trying to match this employee ID 4 with each and every record, but it did not got any record. So what will happen? Employee name John will come, but since it did not got any record from the right table, here null would come. So this is basically the concept of left outer join. All records from left table will come, and record for which there is no matching column value of second table, then null will come in the column of other table. Now employee sales is the column of TBL sales, so for that null will come. So now let's consider actual implementation of left outer join. So let's see how do we write this. First of all, in the from clause, you have to specify both the tables, and instead of, like in the last example, we wrote inner join. So here instead of inner join, we have to use left outer join. And similar to last time of inner join, we can just write over here the condition by which we are going to join the two tables. So as you can see over here, the result, it's same as inner join. Only difference is the extra record from the left table, which is John came, and for it, employee sales came as null. So this is the basic syntax. We have to just use left outer join, and the on clause, we have to give the common column name. So next join is right outer join. So as we saw the last join, which was left outer join, in which all records from left table were considered and common records were considered. Now in case of right outer join, it fetches all records from right table and matching records between two tables. So as you can see in this diagram, the yellow section, which is nothing but output from inner join. Here, along with that, we have unmatched records from the right table, which is highlighted by green section over here. Now let's see the example of right outer join. So here you can see in case of right outer join, firstly the common set will come. That is nothing but the result set which is given to us by inner join. So these two records, Vinod Alex and 1000 2000. So this record will come firstly. On top of it, in case of right outer join, all records from right table come. So that means this record 3000, this will also come. Okay. So now we have the column employee sales. So 3000 will come over here. Now what's happening? This employee ID 3 is not getting any match with employee ID of TBL employee. It goes over here, 1, 2, 4, nowhere it finds any match. So what happens is employee name column which is there, it will come as null in that case. Okay, so basically what does the right outer join gives the result? It gives the common result set, okay, and plus unmatched records from the right table. Which is the unmatched record? 3000. Why? Because employee ID 3 did not got any match in the left table, which is TBL employee. So here 3000 will come, and since there was no match in the left table, this employee name value would come as null. So now let's see a practical execution of right outer join. So just we saw previously it was left outer join. So here we have to just change the syntax from left to right outer join. Okay, both the tables are there, TBL employee, TBL sales, and on clause remains intact. We are joining based on employee ID. So again here first the common result set will come, and then we get the additional records which is from the right table. Employee sales the value from right table, and since no match was there in the left table, it comes as null. So now next join is the full outer join. In case of full outer join, it gives us the common result set plus unmatched records from left table plus unmatched records from the right table. So as you can see in the diagram, we can see the orange section, which is the unmatched records from the left table, plus yellow colored section, which is the common records between two tables, and the green colored section, which represents unmatched records from the right table. Now let's see an example of full outer join. Now here you can see the same example. We had unmatched records which were like 4 John, right? Or it's 3000, which are not having any match in both of the tables. Okay, so in case of full outer join, both will be considered. So let's see how the flow goes. Firstly, it will consider the common records. So this is Vinod 1000 and Alex 2000. These two records will come. Then the result set, like the unmatched records in the left table, will be considered. So which is the unmatched record of the left table? It's 4 John. So what is the entry that will come? It will be John and then null, since there is no entry for employee ID 4 in the right table. Then the next which will come is the unmatched record from the right table. Which is the unmatched record from the right table? It's 3000. So 3000 will come in employee sales, and since there is no entry for employee ID 3 in TBL employee, the employee name column will come as null. So this is the final result set of full outer join. Now let's see a practical example of full outer join. Now here syntactically, if you see, instead of left or right, we have to just mention over here full. So table 1, and then here you have to specify full outer join. Once you specify over here full outer join, the on condition which is there remains intact. It doesn't change. The column name which will be used for joining will be the employee ID. And the result set which you will get is nothing but common records, then unmatched record from left table and unmatched record from right table. So this is how the output of full outer join is generated. So the next join which is there is the self join. It's basically the inner join only, in which we consider only the overlap or the common records between the two tables. But only major difference here is the left and right table is the same. So you can see in this diagram, on the left and right, both is table 1. And overlap is the same as, it's basically inner join only. So it's just the overlap of records we consider, and only difference being left and right tables are same. So now let's see what is the practical use of self join. So here you can see that we have two tables, TBL employee, actually single table only, but we have considered two times because as we have seen earlier that in case of self join, we use the same table, right? The left and right table are the same. So for joining over here, the left table is TBL employee and also the right table taken over here is TBL employee. Now let's see the actual use of self join. So here what is the requirement is we want to display the employee name and its manager name. Okay. So we want to display the employee name and its manager name. So this is basically very important and also asked in interviews. So this is very important kind of join, and also it has a practical use. So normally in interview, the question is what is self join and give a practical example. So now let's see what is the practical use of this. So you have over here three employees, Vinod, Alex, and John. And you can see over here, we have a column which is manager ID. Now, for employee whose employee ID is 1, manager ID is 2. Now, what does that mean? Manager ID is 2 means employee whose employee ID is 2, which is Alex. So Vinod's manager is Alex. Why Alex? Because what is the manager ID? 2. And what is the name of employee whose employee ID is 2? It's Alex. Okay. Similarly, you can see over here in this record, for employee ID 2, employee name is Alex. What is the manager ID for Alex? 3. Now, what is the name of employee whose employee ID is 3? It's John. So, Alex manager will be John. Okay. So, this is our result set. Vinod's manager is Alex. Alex manager is John. So, what I have done over here is to make your visualization simple, I have considered the table and arranged in such a way that this single row is in a single line. Okay. So now let's understand how we are going to implement this. Now, for Vinod, we want to find the manager. Okay. So now, suppose we want to find the manager of Vinod. What is the manager ID of it? It's 2. So now, what is our next work? We want to find the employee whose employee ID is 2 and name of it. So let's see that in that case, we will use the second table as a source to get the manager name. Okay. So what is our work? We have to find a employee whose employee ID is 2 and get its name. So what is the manager ID over here? 2. We'll go in this table and search the record where employee ID is 2. So we'll get this record. Now just for this employee ID 2, we have to get the name. Right? So what is the name? It's Alex. So that is our manager name. So in short, what we have to do, we have to just establish the bonding between these two rows. So now how do we establish the bonding between these two rows? It's very simple. What we have to do, manager ID of this table, manager ID of this table should be equal to employee ID of the second table, correct? So what will happen if we put this condition, this record would be merged, or this record would be accessible to us. Got it? So then once this record is accessible to us, this column employee name, we will say that as employee name, and this employee name we will tell it as manager name. Okay, now let's consider the second example or second row. What is the second row? It's having employee ID is 2. What is the name? Employee name is Alex. What is the manager ID? 3. Now with this manager ID, what we have to do now? We have to go in this table and find the employee whose employee ID is 3. So which is that row? It's this row, 3, John and null. So basically, to get that same concept, we have to tell manager ID of this table should be equal to employee ID of this table. So with that, what will happen? This entire record would be accessible to us. Then what we will do, we will just take this employee name, this will be our employee name, and this employee name, we will term it as manager name, right? So here is our result set. We took Vinod, this is our employee name, and this Alex, we took it as manager name. Same for the next row. Alex, this goes as employee name, and John, this goes as a manager name. So this is how our result set got generated. See over here, this is a practical example of self join. So the point which we discussed, it's basically nothing but inner join. Only difference is with inner join is here the left table and right table which are there, both are same, right? As you can see over here, both are TBL employee. But now to distinguish between these two tables, what we have given, the alias, right? Alias names are different. One is having EMP and one is having MGR. So while joining, we are considering emp.manager_id is equal to mgr.employee ID. The thing which we discussed earlier, right? Manager ID of first table and joining with employee ID of second table. So later, what we have to do just is fetch the employee name from the first table, and that we will term it as employee name, and manager's employee name, the second table's employee name, we will term it as manager name, right? So here is our result set. Employee name Vinod, manager name Alex, again employee name Alex, and its manager is John. And the last join which is there is the cross join. In case of cross join, each row from first table is paired with each row from second table. It's also termed as like Cartesian product. That means if you have m rows in first table and n rows in second table, then the number of rows in the final table will be m into n, because each row from left table takes each row from right table. So that's why the result is m into n. So as you can see over here, we have two tables. One is TBL sales and one is TBL month. So basically here we are going to use a cross join. Now TBL sales has 3 records, and it has 2 columns, employee ID, employee sales. Now what we are going to do over here is, for each row of TBL sales, we are going to generate 12 records corresponding to 12 months of 2020. So this way what will happen, when you consider the first row, these 12 records will be considered. When you consider this second row, again 12 records will be considered from months table. Same applies for record 3, again 12 more records. So in the cross-join result, you will find 12 plus 12 plus 12, which is 36 records. Again, a Cartesian product, 3 into 12, which is 36. So here you can see the same set. First, for employee ID 1, 12 records. For employee ID 2, 12 records. And lastly, for employee ID 3, 12 records. So total 36 records, which is 12 into 3. So this is nothing but cross-join result. So now let's see over here a demo of cross-join. So here we have considered the same tables which we discussed, like TBL sales and TBL months. Now here the syntax which you can observe is, we have to just use over here cross-join. Most important thing to observe over here, there is no on clause. Why? Because we are not using any column that we are going to compare. So that's why we are not going to use on clause over here. And a result which you generate over here now, it will be nothing but the Cartesian product, that is nothing but first row of first table will be combined with all the rows in the second table. And same applies for rest of the rows in the first table. So here you can see 12 rows for employee ID 1, 12 more rows for employee ID 2, and lastly 12 rows of employee ID 3.